Greetings, welcome back to Black Bear News, where we are discussing the ongoing situation surrounding climate change and abrupt climate change, possible collapse of the biosphere, possible near-term human extinction. All really lovely subjects, don't you think? I'm going to start off with some update about the California wildfires, nearly 1,300 unaccounted for in Camp Fire. 1,300. The death toll is now at 76. The blaze is now 55% contained. Southern California, the Woolsey fire is 82% contained. President Trump visited homes. Dense smoke from the fires has been smothering parts of the state with what has been described as the dirtiest air in the world. Again, that is an ongoing problem. Excuse me. Rain is forecasted for midweek, which could help firefighters. So I'm going to link this update below. It's kind of the same running update of the fires. I have to admit, I did a little troll poking today. I happened to see a video titled "It's Always 10 More Years" or something like that. And basically the gist of the video was, because they said we had 10 years to fix climate change in 1989, and then they just said we have 12 years to fix climate change, that somehow that proves that climate change isn't real, because they just keep moving the goalpost, which kind of makes sense on some level, but it was totally stupid. It was like, yeah, they just keep saying 10 years, but nothing's ever happening. And I had to explain to them that something is happening, that we really did have 10 years in 1989, and that we don't have 10 years now. And I went a little bit overboard, and I think I called some people dipshits. Sorry. Maybe that wasn't productive, but man, it felt good actually to just shout into the stream of unconsciousness that is a denier video. That's just what I'm into these days, for kicks. It's fun. Anyways, I'm going to get into this article from Grist, the bizarre and frightening conditions that sparked the Camp Fire. The story has been updated to reflect the fire's impact as of Thursday night, November 15th. The Camp Fire, which destroyed the town of Paradise, is now the most destructive to ever hit California and the deadliest wildfire in modern American history. As of Thursday night, 63 people are known to have died. 631 are still missing, so it's much more than that. The last fire this deadly was back in 1918 in Minnesota, before professional firefighting or meteorological science. This is the kind of urban conflagration Americans thought they had banished in the early 20th century, wrote fire historian Stephen Pine for Slate. It's like watching measles or polio return. Our unnaturally warming climate set the stage for the return of this type of devastating fire, the Camp Fire, and the escalating onslaught of weather emergencies like it crystallized the urgency of the climate challenge. Without radical changes, there will be more fire catastrophes like Paradise. Even with radical changes, there will be more fire catastrophes. That's actually just the honest truth. According to local meteorologist Rob Elvington, the Camp Fire began under atmospheric conditions with no analog or comparison in history for the date. Northern California's vegetation dryness was off the charts, exceeding the 99th percentile for any single day as far back as local records go. Worse than no rain is negative rain, wrote Elvington. The air was so dry it was sucking water out of the land. That warranted an extremely critical fire weather alert by National Weather Service, which was really an understatement for the direness of the situation. According to the U.S. Forest Service, fighting a fire in such conditions is almost by definition a losing battle. Direct attack is rarely possible and way more dangerous, except immediately after ignition. Fires that develop headway in heavy slash or in conifer stands may be unmanageable while the extreme burning condition lasts. The campfire burned so hot that it cremated people in their homes and cars. Lizzie Johnson, a San Francisco Chronicle reporter embedded with one of the area's cadaver search and rescue teams, had been candid about her experience. There are some things you can't unsee while reporting, she wrote on Twitter. Fire disasters on a scale recently considered inconceivable now appear to be inevitable. 6 of the 10 most destructive wildfires in California history have ignited in the past 3 years. In little more than a year, 2 other California towns, Redding and Santa Rosa, have been similarly devastated by fires. As long as we continue on a business as usual path, it's a matter of where, not when, another California town will be erased from the map. Like the Camp Fire, future fires, catastrophes are inescapable. On our current path, it may take generations for California's forests to adapt to the warming, drying climate. Nearly every square mile of the state's forest may need to burn for that to happen. I'm going to read that again. Nearly every square mile of the state's forest may need to burn for that to happen, for a new life to emerge, and for new trees to, let me read that again, for new life to emerge and for new tree species to migrate northward toward new water sources and cooler air. The likelihood of that happening is what? We can't continue on as if the fate of paradise was just a fluke. By failing to take appropriate action on climate change, we are actively choosing to create the ideal conditions for future unfightable fires. The fact that millions of people around the world are being subjected to increasingly extreme weather is a choice we make every day. We know the kinds of bold, radical plans that scientists say are now necessary to steer the world toward a safer future, including remaking the American economy to rapidly reduce emissions immediately. Remaking as in collapsing, as in, yeah, starting over. Let it collapse and reconfigure the entire thing. That's what's necessary to fight climate change. Point blank, straight up, there's no other way to do it. We have the money, the time, and the knowledge to implement them. Future fires are a given, but we can avoid future tragedies at the level of paradise. It's our choice whether last week's fires become a cautionary tale or the new normal. It doesn't have to be this way. Moving on to this article from Arctic News, and this is, I don't know, this is about as alarmist as it possibly can get. But I'm going to read this, and y'all can tell me what you think. I'm going to link this below, as well as the last article. This is from Friday, November 16th. As El Niño sets in, will global biodiversity collapse in 2019? A recent study created an original data set of plant temperature tolerances with a median upper tolerance limit of 23.7 C. This temperature is about 10 C higher than the temperature in the year 1750. Only during times of mass extinctions were temperatures that high, such as during the PETM 55.5 million years ago and the Permian Triassic extinction event 252 million years ago. Also known as the Great Dying, when some 95% of species known from fossils went extinct. The study concludes that the extinction will already occur far earlier than when upper tolerance levels are reached, as loss of one species can make more species disappear, a process known as co-extinction, and possibly bring entire systems to an unexpected sudden regime shift or even total collapse. There was a small group of species with large tolerance limits and remarkable resistance to environmental change, but even they could not survive co-extinctions. In fact, their extinction was abrupt and happened far from their tolerance limits and close to global diversity collapse at around 5 C of heating. In the top image on the right, monthly NASA land ocean temperature data for 2017 October to October 2018 are adjusted, and a polynomial trend is added showing how a 5 C rise in temperature could occur very rapidly, i.e. by September 2019. The second image on the right is from an earlier post that contains more background on the adjustment of NASA data and the need for a polynomial trend. A strong, abrupt rise in temperature could be caused by an influx of warm, salty water into the Arctic Ocean, triggering large eruptions of methane from its seafloor, as discussed in earlier posts such as this one. As El Niño sets in, the odds of a rapid global biodiversity collapse are rising. Large methane releases from the seafloor of the Arctic Ocean could also be triggered by earthquakes. Above image shows a magnitude 6.8 earthquake that occurred near Greenland on November 9th, 2018, and subsequent nearby earthquakes measuring 5.2, 4.6, and 4.3 on the Richter scale. There is a danger of isostatic rebound triggering earthquakes in the Arctic Ocean that can in turn destabilize methane hydrates. This is discussed in more detail at this page. Ominously, levels of methane as high as 2,787 parts per billion were recorded on November 15th, 2018, as the image below shows very high methane levels were present over the Arctic Ocean. The magenta color indicating methane levels of 1,950 parts per billion and higher. The situation is dire and calls for comprehensive and effective action as described at the climate plan. Okay. Sam Carana and Arctic News saying we could see 5C by September 2019. Who knows? I'm going to finish with this article. I wanted to be done with this video, but I cannot be done with this video because this article is important. This is from The Guardian. This is from today. Scores arrested as thousands block London bridges in climate rebellion. Protesters close 5 main bridges across Thames over extinction crisis and huge act of peaceful civil disobedience. More than 50 people have been arrested as thousands of demonstrators occupied 5 bridges in central London to voice their concerns over the looming climate crisis. Protesters, including families and pensioners, began massing on 5 of London's main bridges from 10 a.m. on Saturday. An hour later, all the crossings had been blocked in one of the biggest acts of peaceful civil disobedience in the UK in decades. Some people locked themselves together while others linked arms and sang songs. Good for you, Extinction Rebellion, for actually shutting something down. However, you did do this on a Saturday. By 2 p.m., the blockade of Southwark Bridge had been abandoned, and protesters moved from there to Blackfriars Bridge, where organizers said they were soon to move west towards Westminster Bridge. The demonstration will move from eastern bridges to congregate at the end of the day at Westminster, where there will be speeches and opportunities for members of the public to speak about environmental destruction. The day will end with an interfaith ceremony outside Westminster Abbey. The move is part of a campaign of mass civil disobedience organized by a new group, Extinction Rebellion, which wants to force governments to treat the threats of climate breakdown and extinction as a crisis. The social contract has been broken, and it is therefore not only our right, but our moral duty to bypass the government's inaction and flagrant dereliction of duty and to rebel to defend life itself, said Gail Bradbrook, one of the organizers. Alice, 19, from Bristol, was one of those blocking Westminster Bridge. I took the coach at 3 a.m. to make sure I didn't miss it, she said, and I'm so glad that I did. It's a tiny personal inconvenience, and having made it, I get to be part of a rebellion. This movement will be remembered in the history books when we finally stopped allowing our leaders to take us over the cliff. Jenny Jones, the Green Party peer, joined the protest on Westminster Bridge. She backed the nonviolent direct action taken by demonstrators. We are at the point where if we don't start acting and acting fast, we are just going to wipe out our life support system, she said. It's fine to think we are a rich country, the 6th biggest economy in the world, but actually we won't do any better than anywhere else because climate change will massively affect us too. Basically, conventional politics has failed us. It's even failed me, and I'm part of the system, so people have no other choice. Father Martin Newell on Blackfriars Bridge said, "What brought me here is a climate emergency, the extinction emergency, and my faith in God, who created all this and whose creation we're destroying and crucifying. I'm called as a Christian to protect our neighbor who's being abused." In the past 2 weeks, more than 60 people have been arrested for taking part in acts of civil disobedience organized by Extinction Rebellion, ranging from gluing themselves to government buildings to blocking major roads in the capital. However, those disruptions were eclipsed on Saturday when organizers say 6,000 people took part in protests. It is not a step we take lightly, said Tiana Jakut, one of those involved. If things continue as is, we face an extinction greater than the one that killed the dinosaurs. I don't know about you, but I'd rather be a worthy ancestor. Extinction Rebellion, which cites the civil rights movement, suffragettes, and Mahatma Gandhi as inspirations, said smaller events took place in the UK cities as well as overseas on Saturday. Organizers say they are planning to escalate the campaigns from Wednesday, when small teams of activists will swarm around central London, blocking roads and bridges, bringing widespread disruption to the capital. Go, go, go. Given the scale of the ecological crisis, we are facing this as the appropriate scale of expansion, said Bradbrook. Occupying the streets to bring about change as our ancestors have done before us. Only this kind of large-scale economic disruption can rapidly bring the government to the table to discuss our demands. We are prepared to risk it all for our futures. That's all I'm going to read of that article. I'm going to link it below, and that is all I have for this particular video. Thank you so much for your eyes, your ears, and your conscience. If you would like to support this channel, you can do so at the links below. Extinction Rebellion is quite inspirational. I don't know if it's taking hold in the US at all. I don't hear anything about it in the USA, except for those of us who are talking about it on this channel. But perhaps we could start shouting about it and organizing some things. Who knows? Who knows? I'm game. Anybody else game? That's all I have for you tonight. And until next time, peace.